Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Good morning, everybody. Let's take a quick look here. Grab the links. There's the one. Copy. Paste. And here's the other one. Copy. Paste. Okay, so we got some interesting stuff going on today. Over the weekend, of course. Friday it was, long after we were trading, they did do airstrikes. It was that night they did airstrikes on Syria. But you don't see any of it because it was basically like they did the airstrikes and they supposedly did what they wanted to do, although there's a lot of question I'm seeing around floating on the internet about how much they actually did. Really difficult to get a strong grasp on what's going on because there's just propaganda and misinformation everywhere on this. It's ridiculous. Bot's working overtime, guys. Anyways, but then it seems like the market is kind of like, oh, okay, that's gone. We do have news this morning. We've got core retail sales coming out today. And we got some stuff later in this week. Mostly like the housing numbers on Tuesday, I think. And what else we got? There's IMF meetings over the weekend. That is certainly something to look at. Unemployment claims, that always happens. Beige book on Wednesday. A lot of speakers this week as well. I'd watch for the speakers because I really think that the Fed is concerned. I wouldn't say concerned, but believes that there's a risk they have to raise rates faster than they expected. So we had a move down, pretty good one. In the mini, the SPOOs, just kind of recovering back to where we were. Sneeze, jeez. So it's not really giving us a whole lot of clues as to where it wants to go at the moment. Anyways, nothing's gonna happen until the news for sure, so we're gonna eat some food here. Oh yeah, Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is just kind of balancing itself out after that huge move up. It doesn't look like that much on the daily chart, but it was a pretty solid move up. Let's move this over to a 6-hour chart so we can see. So somebody bought. There's a little pump there, but other than that, not much interesting. My alts have actually continued to do well, so we were like, what, 350? And now we're like 420. Let's load Delta up and see what it says. Oh, well, most of them are down, so we're at 390. This garlic coin, let me tell you what, now that I have like $30 of it, a teeny tiny little move in garlic coin is a big deal for me now. So we're getting there. I think I have 700 now. I wrote it in there. What is it? 700. Yep. So we're getting close to 1,000. Once we get to 1,000, I might consider buying some. I don't know. I'm concerned about the liquidity on the exchange. Almost looks like to me like there's not a lot of transactions happening. So. But maybe that's what we need is we need to go and scalp garlic coin to create some volume in it. Anyways, I've got some oatmeal to eat, so Gonna mute this for a little bit and get all that food out of the way before the news happens. Okay, so there's the news. I don't have the numbers yet. It looks like there was mostly buying through there. It may have been covering. 0.2 versus 0.2. Retail sales were 0.6 versus 0.4. What's the difference between core? Oh, excluding automobiles. So, oh man, that's interesting. So when you include automobiles, things came in as they expected. But when you don't include automobiles, they come in higher than expected. So automobiles did worse, and everything else did better than expected. Hmm. Bum, bum, bum. Excuse me. $121 at 8K for our Bitcoin numbers. We can start writing that. Well, now that we're back to the VWAP, I want to see if they do a VWAP bounce here. The change in cumulative delta was not actually that much. So I'm a little wary of taking a trade here. I'm not quite sure where they're taking this. They definitely got a good bid underneath of them in bonds. So there's that. Oh man, it's getting hot in this room now that winter is over. I'm having a hard time adjusting here to or the house is at least. Oops. Didn't need that second one. Oh, that's interesting. Hold on. Okay, well, hopefully that cools things off in here. We'll open up the window. You can hear outside. Dave K, that was a good run. Time to go down. Are you talking about in Bitcoin? It is hard to say what Bitcoin is going to do. It sounds like people are moving their money from alts to Bitcoin like the old good time. Oh geez, that's a hard call. Because I'm seeing some. Let's pull up a chart here and look, because just on my valuation charts, I'm seeing some really strong moves in Ethereum, or some really wild swings in the Ethereum valuation. Yeah, so here you can see it. If you look at it over the past couple of weeks, the Ethereum has actually been rising compared to Bitcoin. So it actually appears to me, although it's really hard to say just based off of that one metric, but I do see some indication that people are leaving Bitcoin and moving into altcoins. I'll also show it to you here with BCH. BCH BTC. Okay, it's still kind of flat, but maybe turning around. So hard to say conclusively. Yep, Ethereum is catching up. But it just kind of looks to me like we had to move up, and it's just sitting here like there's no interest in taking it either way again. So this leads me to believe that the whole it was a margin run seems likely. That doesn't mean that it couldn't continue on, right? It just means we just have to have somebody else big come in and say, okay, I want to take it up another step, or I want to buy it here. But like I said, if we get to 9K, my indicator will start to signal the crash imminent. So I believe we may get there. Today it was like 121. This is a smaller spike from what happened in March. Yeah. Now, the other thing is that tax day is tomorrow, right? So, I think I'm going to wait until after that and see what happens. I would hope that anybody that has to sell some Bitcoin to pay taxes has already done it, but you never know. And the lower it goes, the more they have to sell, right? Because I got all these unrealized gains. Yeah. Oh, opening up that window is already helping. I remember I always said there was going to be a spike in text time. Yeah, so the text time thing kind of confuses me. Maybe I was just misreading what everybody said, but I was kind of under the impression that we were just going to continue to sell until tax time, and then after that we could start going back up. That was kind of what the way that people were talking. That's what it sounded like they all thought was going to happen. Now you're saying, oh, we have a spike, we have a move up around tax time, and then we're going to continue going down afterwards. I don't know. I feel like the community is confused. You might be, if that's, maybe it's that the community is confused and you're correct. That, you know, there was a little pump around tax time and then it's going to come off and not everybody on Bitcoin is going to be like, Well, this is interesting. We come back to the VWAP. Not much interest. E-mini not really moving. Well, I mean, alt season is it's when we're moving down to sideways, it generally tends to be alt season in general, right? I don't know if the time of year is alt season though. But I just see it incredibly overbought. So you know what I think is funny though? So first of all, Ethereum, something funky is going on in the volume of Ethereum. Okay, the my indicator is just rising like crazy, and it continues to do so. And it seems that ever since the big washout, that there was some application or something running out there that was creating a lot of volume and is gone, and that volume is just drastically decreasing in Ethereum, but people still want to buy it because they're playing the whole altcoin thing. So I'm not going to say Ethereum is overvalued here. It's not quite to that point, but it's kind of hitting that way. But then you have other altcoins like Verge, for instance. So Verge has basically been dead for quite some time, and we've had this huge move up, and Verge has tripled in value off of these people playing the trade that they're going to announce some huge partner person. And but the funny thing is that even after it's basically tripled in value, my indicator says that it's not overvalued yet. Like, we're not overvalued compared to where they were way back when it got pumped by McAfee. So so Verge actually still has room to run. like if the partner thing comes out and it turns out that they actually have a real partner that was worth buying for, it could continue on. That's what the valuation says. And yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen, but I had been in it for a while. I think it's worth keeping to see what happens. We'll be watching it tomorrow. Something that is worthless is always overvalued. Your indicator is wrong. Well, no, that's not true, because here's the thing with the Verge. there are actually nice things about Verge. It has a lot of features, and people were actually using it. And remember, what gives these altcoins value is use. So you kind of had a pump like this in Verge. If we say that it is a pump in Verge was inevitable, because you can't have a currency with that many people using it just go nowhere. At one point, somebody in there is going to be like, well, let's do something, right? If you want an example of something that's not worth anything, look at my garlic coin, right? So it's settled down around 5 cents. And when you look at the volume transacted on the chain and the volume transacted on Trade Satoshi, is just pathetic. Nobody cares about it. That's a worthless coin, at least right now. Well, what's the use case and usage of Verge? Just go and look at the transaction volume on Verge. People are actually using it. And I think that the use case with Verge is that it is, so first of all, it's a privacy coin. Okay. No, I'm not talking trade volume. I'm talking like people moving money between addresses. Okay. There's enough on-chain transactions that it's not overvalued here. There's nothing there outside of going from wallets to exchanges. Well, that might be true, but the fact remains that it has more volume going through it than a lot of, well, maybe not more volume, but relatively speaking compared to its price. You know, you look at something like Litecoin, for instance, okay? The transaction value in Litecoin is just plummeting like a rock. And they've moved up, and so the indicator says that Litecoin, and most of the other related ones are overvalued here. And then you have Bitcoin, of course, overvalued, extremely overvalued at around 9,500. Wraith protocol has been proven worthless. That was the only thing that was privacy. Well, I think for to come in and say, okay, I can make a transaction, I can make a private transaction, I can choose whether or not my transaction is private or public, and there's a dozen other features that Verge has. And none of them are features that are unique to Verge, but I don't think there is any coin that has as many features as they do. And so if you can do something with it, you can't say that it's worthless, okay? I mean, quite frankly, it's worth more than Bitcoin feature-wise. The only reason that Bitcoin is worth more is because there's lots of people using it, and probably the only reason that they use Bitcoin is because of the name. But it doesn't work. You don't think that it works? Oh, I would have to see more information on that, because as far as I understand it, that those features do work. Now, the developer that is working on it, it doesn't seem like he really knows what he's doing, but no, we'll see. Here's the thing, is that the way that with all respect, in my opinion, the way that you're trying to value a coin doesn't work. Because you're saying it doesn't work, it's a shit coin, it's worthless, and yet it's tripled in the past week. Okay? And the only reason that I have Verge is that I mined it because the indicator said to. Because the indicator said that there is more transaction value on the Verge chain than the market gives credit for. That's the only reason I bought it. And that worked. So I would have to say that maybe if you think that something doesn't work or is a shit coin, but people are actually using it, you might be wrong about something. There might be something that you're missing. Okay, well there they finally had a downtick in ZN. I'm thinking very seriously about taking a short. Well, they're gonna tick back up. Let's see what happens. And who knows? Maybe they really do have a big partner. People were using BitConnect. Yeah, and you could have made money on BitConnect before it died, of course. Unfortunately, I don't have a chart of BitConnect to be able to say that what my indicator would have said. I was thinking about that the other day. Like, I wonder what it said about BitConnect. Would the indicator have predicted before BitConnect fell apart that that was going to happen? The speculative market is driven on news, not on use case? Well, yes and no. I mean, if you have a really overbought coin and then there's some news, it's going to be a little bit different from when it's down and you get good news, I'm just saying that I think that the use of the coin is a better indication of what's going on, because there could be news, it might not be real, XRP was overbought and had good news and spiked harder. Yeah, I can't say that one because we don't have the data for I don't have the data for that one to say. Remember with XRP, that was the one when it was like $1, and I was like, this one seems like a good thing because there's a use case for it. It's fast. And then after I said that I liked it, it went up to like 16. And when it was up there, I was like, well, I don't like it anymore. But I don't know what my indicator would have said about it. So. Well, 09 got a little weak there, but only 56 have traded through it. And at the moment, there just doesn't appear to be... It's fast because it's centralized. Yeah, that's true. But here, once again, what gives it cryptocurrency value is that you can make a transaction with it. And whether or not it's centralized, it doesn't really play a whole lot into whether or not you can make an efficient transaction with it. Well, but look, Dave, you gotta remember, this is all based on one fundamental theory about cryptocurrencies. Okay? The only reason, and literally the only reason, that any of these coins have a value is because you can make a transaction with it. That's it. And the amount that that token is worth is 100% correlated to how much money you could actually transact in that currency. Straight up. So you say you can make transactions with credit cards? Yeah. And that's why people pay money to have credit cards, they pay fees, and or a wire transfer. Wire transfer is probably a better example. You pay like $10 to make a wire transfer. It has value. That's the only reason that cryptocurrencies have value. If you couldn't move the cryptocurrency from one wallet to another, it wouldn't be worth anything. Nobody would buy it, because what are you going to do with it, right? If you can't make transactions with Bitcoins, then what is it? It's nothing. This is why this whole thing where they're saying it's like a store of value, well, it's not a store of value if people don't use it, right? So if that's the reason why it has value, then oh my, well, I'm unhappy now. Anyways, so we use the how much people are using the currency to make a judgment on what it's worth. Well, so the more features that you have on that transaction, I think makes it more valuable. So if you, you know, I can make a transaction on Bitcoin, but everybody can see it. If I can make a transaction and it's private and can't be traced, then that is additional utility on the transaction, makes it worth more. If I can use that transaction to carry out some programmatic instructions, that's added value. But, and here's the big but, is that if that feature really adds value, that should come out in more people using it. So that's where I'm saying, if a Verge, which from all outward appearances appears to be just a completely worthless coin, I'm really mad that I didn't get filled at OA halves. There's literally no backflow coming in here. You know, so if you have a coin and it has actually more transaction value, even though it is being valued as worthless basically by the chain, then there's got to be something that the market is missing, that the people that traded are missing, because why are there the people that are using it? What are they seeing? You can see the transaction in the wallets. That does not mean you know who owns the wallet. Yeah. But the point is that if a feature really gives added value, then you should see more people using it. And if you have a wallet, let's say that we had Bitcoin, for instance, and they added a new feature to Bitcoin, like they made it more private. But that didn't lead to more use over time, and it wouldn't have to be immediate, but over the long term, if that didn't lead to more use, then that means that feature wasn't worth anything. But I think that what you would see is that if Bitcoin did add privacy, that use of it probably would increase, probably by quite a bit, because more criminals would be would be interested in using it. If it was more fungible, I think is the word that we use, right? I think, Dave, that when you said using it or buying it, it has to be using it. So I ran my indicator off of the coin market cap data, and they basically include like all volume from trading, and it doesn't show anything. So like when I look at these coins, and especially Bitcoin, and I look at on-chain transaction value, that tells me something. But when I try and do the same thing using all volume from exchange, it means like nothing. So if somebody buys it on the exchange, that certainly affects price, and I think that that's where that volume factors into our equation. But it doesn't really. Does that make sense? Somebody buying it doesn't seem to affect the value because it's not actually making a transaction. It's not until they buy it on the exchange and they transfer it to a wallet that it actually shows up in our indicator. And okay, we could maybe take a as she goes here. Question is it gonna break? Because CF was the driver here, which is good for a short, but it didn't. It's kind of at a spot where I think it could bounce a little bit. The more legs, the more people, the more money. Yeah, but I think what you will find is if you have a situation where there's a lot of volume on the exchange, but it doesn't transfer over into transaction value on the chain, that it's just a pump and dump. And those buyers are just going to sell it back. And we've seen that happen before on the indicator. Like Litecoin. People bought Litecoin as a speculative investment, but they weren't actually buying it to use it. XRP, that may be the case with XRP. But like I said, I don't have the data to see that. The Verge pump, again, the Verge was already crazy undervalued with where it was. So even if this is a pump, I'm just saying, I'm just telling you, it could go up. It could double again and it would still be okay. Litecoin. Vertcoin is my favorite on that metric because Vertcoin is a little bit different. So Vertcoin, what you have is you actually have a pretty dedicated community of adopters, but they're all holding it. So there has been the use to support it in the past, but then you find out that they're all holders instead of just speculators. But you kind of get the same thing. And it kind of makes it dangerous to hold because then when it goes down, you just get all of these people that give up and puke. Well, I think this sell could continue. Yeah, but again, if you have a bunch of people and they buy a coin and they just hodl it, that coin's not going to go anywhere. It doesn't. And you can go and you can look at a lot of coins where that has happened, that people bought it and then they just held it and they didn't actually use it and it didn't go anywhere. You see that in Bitcoin. If people had actually used Bitcoin, if the adoption of Bitcoin had stayed high, we might be okay here. But because adoption during that time actually decreased, we're like totally screwed. Depends on the money being held or the percentage being held that well, yeah. Yeah, so Bitcoin has a very it has velocity issues that a very small percentage of the actual Bitcoin is what actually correlates to transactions on the chain. And but that's what 10. You're saying it's 10%. That 10% gets used a lot. So its velocity actually makes actually hurts its value. Which is to say, I don't think I can take a trade here. Which is to say that if Bitcoin didn't have as much holding, and like 90% of the coins were actually going into the ecosystem, being traded around, but just not that much, like people make transactions every day, but they're not using the same coins, and I don't know if that makes sense. Basically, if there was less holding in Bitcoin and more people actually using it as like money, it would probably be worth more. If there was a large number of people regularly using it to make their everyday transactions, like to buy coffee and stuff, that's when $1 million per Bitcoin is totally within reach. But of course, the blockchain as it stands today is not capable of supporting that. Yeah, you would need more corporate adoption, exactly. And again, that's where I keep harping on this. Adoption during that run decreased. Just it makes me mad. I still just don't understand why they couldn't just increase the block to 4 megs. This is just dumb. Yeah. I mean, there was something they could have done right here. I mean, and they could still do it. They could do it today. They could literally do it today, guys. They could go in and they could say, okay, we're gonna change this 2 to an 8, and then we're gonna fork. They could do that today, and it would increase the number of transactions that Bitcoin can handle, and they don't want to do it. It is faster. Are you kidding me? You see those attacks where people put in like these crazy big transactions that filled the chain up, like 8 megabyte transactions, and it just cleared right through. And they're only pulling 8 megabyte ones right now, right? And I think that they're about to fork to 32 megabyte ones, and then it's going to be like 2 gigabytes. And of course, 2 gigabytes is a lot, but my understanding, like the number of transactions you can handle at 2 gigabytes is like crazy. Like I think that that's where they get about equal to Visa. What we need is 1 or 2 new Ethereums. Fortunately, 88. Well, why do you say that? I mean, what's wrong with Ethereum proper? Which will limit the capacity of anyone who can be a node? Yeah, but I don't think that space is as expensive as everybody makes it out to be. I mean, come on, you can get like a 2 terabyte hard drive. Well, it's not even 2 terabytes now. You can get like 4 to 10 terabytes now for like $50. Let's look, before I say something like that, let's look on Newegg, huh? Computer. Oh, sorry, components. hard drives. Okay, 2 terabytes for 60. Man, I did get all these, so let's type this. I'm gonna mute this for a second. Okay, well, it might finally tick up. Tucker was asking if I had taken one there, but I wouldn't take one long. Okay, yeah, they did tick up. You know, I don't take that counter trend trade. So we would have to get above 10 for me to consider taking longs. But with the action that we're seeing, I think I might wait until after equities to take a trade. Okay, back to it. Yeah, so I like your comment, Anthony, where you said since Bitcoin became the prince of cryptos, the market boomed. I think that that's something really important to note, was that Ethereum, with all of the cool things that it can do, really increased interest in the cryptocurrency space. And I don't think that we could have had the run that we had if Ethereum didn't exist. And, you know, curiously enough, they didn't build Ethereum on Bitcoin. So my understanding was that originally he wanted to do it attached to Bitcoin, and they just didn't quite have the stuff that they needed, and Core wasn't cooperative. There's actually some talk about doing things like that on Bitcoin Cash, but we'll see. But I think that's also kind of, it helps explain why we've seen why this crypto market seems to be so sick, though, because there's just been too many hacks and problems with Ethereum, and apparently some major application or use case of it has disappeared because the transaction value on that chain is dramatically changed. And so I think that that is one of the major contributors to this bear market. And at this point, I'm not quite sure what they can do, you know? What can the Ethereum developers do to increase confidence in it? Because right now I think people are just too afraid that they're going to get hacked. Oh, okay, so Tucker said I don't have the thing I should undeafen that. From what I was reading, sellers weren't going for 7, so you buy 7.5 and bail through 7 or even 6.5 worst case if they start hitting it. The max risk is really 1 or 2 to see 2 or 3. Well, so if I had bought, I don't think that I'd get filled here, so if I had bought 7.5s, like you're saying, okay, and I could have 1 tick by now, and I could possibly get 2, 3, 4, 5 ticks on it. You're right. But is it like 1 or 2 ticks? No. Because if they trade 70 and it drops, they're probably going to trade to 6.5, 60, maybe even 55 before you can even click in. At least that's what always happened to me. So I would take those counter trend moves and I would always get caught on the stop run. So I just can't get out fast enough. And then you run into those situations where it's trending. And you end up screwing it up over and over and over again. And you can go back and you can watch videos of those days. Some of my worst tilts, like days where I would lose over $1,000
Tucker said if you're long 0.75, you've got 5,000 orders behind you to give you information on whether that long is solid. What do you mean by click in? Just toss in a hard stop. Senseless to let a.
Yeah, no, also just kind of goes back to where I was saying that treasuries are really not a counter
Tucker
trend
said
market.
my point is you don't need to risk 4 or 5 ticks buying 0.75 to see if the trade is good. All you need to risk is 2. And we both know that ZN slippage is essentially 0.
Well, no, we don't know that. It's 1. From going live, I can tell you, it's 1. It's 0 to 1. But when I take the counter trend trades, what'll happen is I'll have a time period where I'll do really good, and I think that today might be one of those days where you might do pretty good doing the counter trend trades. And then I just have a day where I get every trade wrong, and I get like 5 or 6 in a row wrong. But treasuries are not a counter trend market. Equities are a counter trend market. The SPOOs, man, those things are that thing is all about stopping people out. It goes and it does something and it wants to stop you out, and then it immediately turns around and goes the other way when it's done it. Whereas treasuries,
slippage is one.
Yeah, Keith, I've had.
Tucker said treasuries are a huge counter trend market.
I've had at least 2 trades where it hit my stop and I got 1 tick slippage. So.
Tucker said buying/selling the edges is a huge edge. Tucker said I've never slipped even one.
You've never slipped even one.
Heath said, well, that's because you have a 400 volume stop.
That might be true,
Move that
Keith.
up to 2K and you wouldn't have any slippage.
That might be true. It could be that my program just put it in slow. So let me put this a different way, Tucker. I did a study where I took my 1 tick charts, okay, and I took my cumulative, my order flow indicators. There's an indicator here you can come in. It's actually built into NinjaTrader, and it's called buy sell volume. Okay. Hold on a second. Let me close the window here. It's getting windy. I think it's cold enough in here now. Okay, so I had my 1 tick chart and I said, okay, when there's a situation where there's like a buy sell volume imbalance, and I was looking at ones where, and I tried a bunch of different values, but like, let's say that there was like 5,000 sold there and it didn't tick down. It is basically what it tells me. 5,000 went in there and it didn't tick down. And like, there had to be a certain imbalance. So like if 5,000 sold and it was like 5 to 1, so only 1,000 bought there or something like that, then I would take a trade. And, I back tested it on a bunch of different indicators. And the idea was that when we hit an iceberg, essentially, if you fade the iceberg, do you make money? Or if you take the continuation off of the iceberg, do you make money? And what I found was there was no edge in it. You at least on that one set of rules, and I also tried it with moving averages and things like that to try and catch the trend. The fact is, despite what we may want to believe, there is no reliable edge on an iceberg. You do not know if it's going to continue through or not. And you can have a situation where we could go to 0.85 and then it could still pop down and go through it. So that's where I kind of said, I don't want to trade the icebergs because they're not reliable. And I don't want to trade the counter trend moves. I mean, sometimes we see it happen. I can see what you take when you buy it at 0.7.5, but it's just not a trade that I'm very good at trading. And I have quite a long history.
Tucker said agreed that iceberg/refreshing orders are contextual and that permafading them is silly. This AMS low wasn't an iceberg though. The first time 0.70 was bid, a one-lot trade. The second
time 400 traded, nobody was pushing to see new lows, so the only direction from there has to be back up. Well, okay, so, but, you know, Thursday, right? Thursday is a really good example of this, though, right? Because that's what we did on Thursday, wasn't it? So we were down, we came back up, then we moved down again, and it kind of went dead, and it didn't look like there was a whole lot of interest on them buying it, and it actually kind of started to go back up, I think, didn't it? Let's see. We can still see that day, can't we? Oh, we only get 2 days? That's lame. I guess it's probably best for the best. I did that for a reason. But, you know, it did that, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, some freak selling spike just totally pushed us down. Like, that's what I'm talking about, right? It moves so much stronger on a trend that you can lose everything that you made on the counter trend trading when you end up being wrong. It's like, think of it like this. If you're a counter trend trader, what you're going to be looking for is you're going to be looking for a win rate between 45 and 80% win rate. And your winners are going to be
Horace
between...
said, thinking I want 120.95 to break before I care about this because it's just messing around right now without much to support my long bias. Or even break some lows to give me some short. Tucker said, yeah, Thursday was a weird read. I only saw the trend after we were a couple of ticks past the lows. How many times in the last month or two have we had days like that though? And the
fades don't have to risk your entire account. You need 2 or 3 ticks of risk to see the bounce / return. Yeah, so anyways, if you're counter trend trading, you want a high win rate, and you're going to get small winners that, you know, maybe 2 to 4 tick winners, right? And your losses are going to be between, 2 and 4 ticks or 5 ticks or whatever, right? So you have a strategy that's going to be high percentage, low reward, generally speaking, low risk. But when you do lose, you lose big, right? Whereas if I take with the trend trades, the risk reward is a little bit better. So the probability is lower. I get more between 40 to 50%, but when I get a winner, it's like 8 to 16 ticks, and when I get a loser, it's 2 to 4 ticks. And so I just found that the counter trend trades that I was taking, the loss was too big, and overall that strategy was not very profitable. And I was taking this one around this time last year, and it was like I would always just have really bad tilt days. Like anytime that there was a trend, it was like if I was with the trend, then it was a great day, but half of the time it was just like a really bad loser. Well, now what you'll see happens to me is if it's a choppy day, it's kind of a coin flip as to whether or not I make money that day, and sometimes I don't even just make any trades at all.
Tucker said, I disagree. Trading the edges really doesn't mean you have big losers. You know if you're wrong within a very small price range instead of a mid-range trade where you'd likely need 4+
ticks to see if you made the right call. That may be true. I think that I need to do another study where it's like if we come down to within 1 or 2 ticks of a new low, what are the percentages of times that it goes through? But I guess that's another thing is that we do know. Oh, who gave us that stat? Who was it? Remember when we were going through those stats? This is bothering me, by the way. These are not lined up correctly. Somebody had a stat that told us that they break the new high or low, the overnight high and the overnight low, like 60% of the time or something like that. You remember that? I don't think I want that on my screen. I'll put this way. Well, let me put this way over here.
Tucker said honestly you'll probably see 50/50ths on the new low or not. That's why it becomes a contextual of read.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was me, it was 82%.
Yeah, so that particular stat very much says to me that you're generally better off trying to trade the trend. Just that if we're trending down and we get to a low, the chances are that it's going to make a new low. Now today, I think you might be able to say, hey, maybe we just haven't, the trend just hasn't started. Maybe we're going to go back up to 16. So the previous days, oh, why not? I guess I do need to change this. Let's change this to, it's not loading it because it's, the weekend. That's why I'm all screwed up. Okay. So the point of control was around here at 17.5. So we might yet see a move up. Well, then I have to say that bid is really good. Right, bid is pretty good, and there actually is some volume to stop out. So I think 10.5. Yeah. Okay. So that turned out about what I expected. Another thing is that I've tried a bunch of different automated strategies, and in almost every strategy that I looked at, definitely the win rate increased, and usually the profit factor increased too. If I only took them in line with what the VWAP was doing. So. Now, I guess I do take a counter trend trade. The counter trend trade would be, we go up to 13 and then we pull back 2 ticks and it slows down. Then I say, oh, I can take a long here because we're above the VWAP. And even though it's counter trend, counter the short trend, but I don't want to take counter the day trend. The goal is that for me to have a good day, the goal is we trended up that day and all of my trades were buys. Hmm. Well, pretty balanced through here. Look at the Bitcoin futures, they're actually buying up through, I mean, it's been down overnight, but they've actually bought it almost 30 to 50 contracts that bought through that. So I think that we might see another move up in Bitcoin, or at least they're predicting another move up. Anyways, that's my rule. Only buy above the VWAP, only sell below. Well, the E-mini does not look good, does it? Okay, well, I'm happy that I've got the edge on this. I like that ZF has kind of found balance here instead of having to come back a little bit. Because the ZF definitely does have a tendency to like make a strong move and then have to come back. They get a little too excited sometimes.
Tucker said only 300 printing higher has me worried.
Yeah, well, we had, I think it's ticked back and forth there a few times, so I don't know if the 300 is like an accurate look at it, but I think we're okay because I think that if when we
Tucker
tick
said
through,
need that to pump up to 1,500 or so.
I think that when we tick through 11, that it's going to be fast. So, see that
Horace said yeah, it's not much so far.
we did add him. I think here in ZN, it looks like that there's not a lot of interest in people taking market orders either direction. Well, okay, so somebody did take 25 to sell, but there wasn't a strong offer put on it. But I think that they're looking at ZB and ZF, and they're kind of they don't see the buy yet. Like they ZB kind of would have to start ticking up to 145.01 first. Interesting that somebody was willing to trade into 11. Wonder if that was a stop. Well, probably not a stop, but probably somebody panicking. Okay, so that particular downtick with 22 following it was not good. And it appears to have been because CB ticked down. I need this to firm up here. Nope, that's bad. Okay, well, there's 23 there at one point, and now it's at 21. And this is firming up. But there's this. So. Okay, then they're hitting it. Okay, and that was curious. They hit the 10 and they filled a little bit of an iceberg there. Nope. Hmm. Hmm. You see that bid at just go from 400 to 800 in ZB at 144.30? See that? See him stacking? But then they didn't stack at 31. And that ticked up. This is not sure they want to do it. I wonder if this ticks up, if ZB will firm up. Or if this ticks down, if it's going to tick down again. E-mini does appear like they've pivoted and want to move lower. Yeah. Few good steps lower in the E-mini just there. Okay, well, it's looking a little better. There's some serious resistance here, though. Okay, so now we got a 3 here. Let's pull you guys back up. I want that. Where do you think traditional markets are going in the second quarter? I think that the second quarter is going to continue to be a challenging environment where you really need to pick your stocks right. I think there's a good chance that we make a new high in the E-mini this year, but it might not be until the third or fourth quarter. So I just want to check, is there some earnings going on in Dow rises triple digits as investors turn their to earnings? Strong Bank of America earnings. Well, there was quite a bit there being absorbed at the VWAP. Retail sales solid. So at the moment, the news is not all on board this let's sell the E-mini thing. VIX speculators have never been more long. Well, that's interesting. Okay, that was a pretty good uptick there. And now look at the bid in ZB is much stronger. So I think we might actually finally get the run here. Even though I do not see the impetus for the E-mini to be moving down other than perhaps technicals. Yeah. There you go. Okay, so here again, pretty strong resistance in ZB. ZB seems to be the leader. Looks like they made it through that one.
Tucker said, nice, there you go.
have a pretty good spot, so I think I should be able to be pretty comfortable here. By comfortable, I mean like I can give it a little bit of room to breathe because the chances of it going through my break even are pretty low now at this point, I think. So it's the VWAP and everything like that for it to come back all the way to blah. Let me rephrase this. If we get up to like 13, if it comes back to the VWAP, I can just take a break even pretty confidently, because if we get back to the VWAP, then we're going back through the other side, I'd say. Okay, so that downtick was really interesting and kind of changes my view of things. Because what I see now is that ZN just barely took off at all. And they're reacting to ZB moving up, and ZB just doesn't look like it has what it takes to go through. And the E-mini, I can show it here, the E-mini is kind of ranging back and forth here. So that kind of explains a bit of the volatility. So another buying wave might come through here driven by equities, and then we can see how easily ZB goes through. If ZB continues to receive heavy resistance, I think that we need to think about taking the easy profit. See you later, Dave. Okay, so their pressure's back. And now it's really starting to turn on. There's still a lot of resistance though. Okay. Ooh, that was a good uptick. And another good uptick in ZB. Two strong ones. ZF did not break. ZN did not break actually, or was not that much volume that came through on it. Well, this is very curious because the E-mini just moved back to the VWAP. So the E-mini correlation is not what's driving things here, it appears. I don't see anything in currencies really either. Oof. This could run. If they get to that 120 again, I think that this could run, but I still need to be aware of the quick profit. Because we are still seeing some significant resistance in ZB. Yeah. Okay, well, I think our quick profit opportunity just disappeared. And now it's being awfully well, okay, so this seems like balance now. Getting them both ways. $15. This wants to uptick and it's not quite doing it. The ZF is a little bit lower now, but it is at the VWAP. I'm gonna let it tick up again. No thanks. So it upticked and it was weak. So now that I've scratched it, is it gonna run?
Tucker said there was solid size selling 115 and 110.
It's funny because I'm sitting here going, it's really negative and stuff, but my emotions still want me to buy 10 half. I'm not sure what it is about 10 half that seems so appealing to my ego, but the logic is telling me that this will move down and that we could break the low. Well, we just gonna have to wait. Seeing this here, it's not super positive, but like it's not the way that it's ticking is not necessarily what I would like to see, because you're getting like the do, but nothing's actually happening. So that kind of makes me feel like that robots are trying to trick people into buying. There you go. And see, when they ticked it down, it was much stronger, wasn't it? Okay. Okay. So that series of 11s that just hit 10 half interest me. The E-mini did just kind of take a little. We had a pretty good orange candle there. Okay, now I can think about going long again. Oh, maybe not. I don't know. The E-mini looks like it's ranging, actually. I mean, it's going to move down, but I don't know if it's going to break the 2665. I'm still not sure what the E-mini wants to do here. You see that that 10.5 is pulled and not a single order has gone through. Okay. It's a stronger uptick. I'm gonna try it again. I may have been a second too late there. That sucks. Hmm. That's looking okay. ZB has to break through 05, which it looks pretty likely to do at the moment. And they're absorbing on the bid. I'm so mad that I didn't get filled at 10.5. Okay. There they went. Pretty good backticking there in ZB as it did so. Hmm. A lot of defense there, huh? Wait, this spot. 05 is a single print, that's why. That's another confirmed head and shoulders in the E-mini. Hmm. Okay, this is getting curious because now we're getting big time absorption in ZN as well. Ugh, and that came back so fast. ZF looks like it can't. It needs to gather itself. That 4K is too much. Well, if I had gotten long here, I would have gotten 4. Assuming I had put in my profit taking in there, which I'm not sure I would have. It getting really quiet here is not what I want to see. I'm also not moving up in the line. And if I do get filled, is it gonna go through me? Okay, downtick, but not accompanied by volume. Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay, the way that I got filled there was very strange. Because it was like boo doo 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 all like I think it went two or three. I think there was a buy, a sell, and another buy there, like all at once. I feel impatient. Yeah. Level 2, what I'm seeing right now is not what we want. Although I will say ZB does still appear to have the bid. That 1,000 there, 145. Maybe if they get through that, then we might see the offer. Okay, so again, they attacked the 10.5 and not much conviction to the downside yet. Well, they've touched it more times. This one might hold. Come on. There we go. That 145 disappeared, or it moved down.
IQ said good S on ZN all amigos pointing south.
Okay, that's much more positive. Though I would have liked to have seen it tick down that time.
Alligator said new high in ES probably the trigger, ZN 100 110 fulcrum, failed leg up.
The text-to-speech there was really good at, putting the emotion behind what Alligator just said. All these things, yep, it's a failed leg up. I wonder how it does that. The quiet points I worry, where do they defend the levels? Shorting into some heavy volume there, where to see you short above the VWAP. Oh, well, so it's like one tick above the VWAP, so so again, just let me point out what I'm seeing here. Okay, Overnight, we had a significant move down, and they traded 145.05 is kind of where this candle started. Okay, I guess we should really say it's 03, but when we got to 05, they defended it crazy hard. Like there was like what 8, 6, 8 several times, and now we've come off of it. In ZN, we saw an iceberg up there at 42.69. Then we came off. Now this move up looked really promising. When it went the second time, I was like, "Oh crap! I'm gonna miss it! I'm gonna miss it!" And then it came back off. Okay. Then over here in the E-mini, what does it look like in the E-mini? Well, the E-mini is starting to look a lot more positive. We have some delta's actually been rising through here. We got a higher high and a higher low, and they're eyeing the high of the day. And so we could see a new high of the day and push up and see the treasuries return back to the lows is what we're seeing right now. Now shorting into some heavy volume. And I don't know. We need to look at the delta. I guess you're right. There has been a little bit of some absorption here. I have to say, I mean, look, this is somebody went long here. I mean, that was this 4,000 right here, right? There's still some stuff to unwind. And we have the edge, so there's that. But like I said before, so I think I have a solid trade set up here, but it's not really going yet, is it? Now here at the VWAP, I'm not going to be shocked or concerned if we see a lot trade at the VWAP. You're always going to see a lot trade at the VWAP. Like it might take 3 or 4 to break it. Oof, you know what else I just noticed that I think we should have seen before? We came up here, those bids firmed up there in that spot. And then we pushed up again, and it's actually firming up even more. Okay, so that was a little bit of a flip there. I think these might be targets, but because there's so much there, I'm skeptical that if we get through there, that they're going to be able to push through it. Like this is going to be some pretty significant support unless we start ticking down and they start moving them. And of course, here at the 10, they just still haven't decided to push through. Hmm. See, these ones, I'm not sure you can read too much into it or not because they had to lure them into buying. They'll defend the high levels. Yeah, I don't know. I think that if we have another move up here, that there will be, once again, some heavy resistance. But again, what we're seeing is we're seeing resistance, lack of interest. Resistance, lack of interest. This is actually coming up a little bit. This is still on its highs. The E-mini is coming back a little bit. That would explain why we've moved back, I think. Which way is the path of least resistance? It's very difficult to see right now, I think. Because we know that there's some resistance here. They've eaten some of it, but I think that they've come back. They could be taking profits back here, and that they could be resistance again. On this side, there is definitely some big orders through here, but I don't know if these are actually going to stay or what. But so my conclusion is that we've got some pretty big resistance both ways, and the market continues to be range bound. But I'm kind of tend to look and see if there's going to be unwinding. You can see there was a long here that unwound. There's some longs here in ZB that have not unwound. Maybe this is just balanced here. It's been there long enough that you might be able to say that this whole thing move up doesn't really matter anymore, but they certainly could have gotten out by now. Yeah, there is more liquidity below us than there is above us. But I would be careful about reading that one because that does not, in my experience, does not tell you the right thing. Like, I think what you're trying to say is if this number right here is larger than this number right here, that will have a tendency to move up. But what you will find is that the opposite is true. I can't really show you because it's, you can see it right here, which this line right here tells you which is bigger. Okay. I don't know, is it this one? It's hard. I don't remember which one is which. You notice here though that when we hit that iceberg, that it changed here pretty abruptly. Oh, so we look at the volume profiles. So you're saying there's lots of volume profile below me. But when I look at the volume profile, what I see is a failed range extension move up. Like, I thought that it's like you have a move up and then it comes back to it. If we start ticking 10, then the probability becomes higher and higher and higher that we're going to trade all the way through this. Are those numbers legit? These ones? I don't know. This is bizarre. Bizarre is probably not the best word. This is unusual to see 5,000 at multiple levels. But that's kind of what makes me think that we're going to move down. They need sellers first, though. We're not really getting sellers, are we? It's not breaking. It's ZB. ZB is like teetering on the edge here. If 144.31 traded in ZB, then maybe we could get a little bit further down. But it's going to be harder to go through thick volume areas versus low volume areas. Of course, not always, but as of now, the path of least resistance is up. Oh, well, yeah.
IQ said gotta break 0-0.
I do think there's going to be some profit taking through here. Poor ZB, no love. I mean, I think they want to move down, but they must be betting on the E-mini moving up, doing something. Okay, so they finally sold it. Okay, okay. So now we gotta trade through this 145 even. So did Tucker already leave? Because I would have thought that that 120 might have been a spot that he would have gone short.
IQ said pulling at 0-0.
Yeah. Okay, so they're iceberging at 145, which again is not unusual because it's an even number. Okay, so there's been a change in level 2 and
IQ said youtube.com.
the E-mini just took a little bit of a fall. Oh, and now it's recovering from that fall. We should just have this. And this. There was a fall in it, and almost immediately came almost all the way back up. Well, I have to go soon. I think that I may have to take, you know, if we get a move down, I'm gonna have to take the first run that we get. Yes, not. I mean, it's kind of being flaky. Kind of looking like maybe he wants to drop. Nope. $120.075 building up. I don't see how you see that. Never got, I don't think we even got close enough to see that. We saw 7, but not 7/2. So ridiculously range bound here now. Come on, you can do it, E-Manny. Go, 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 go. Delta continues to be negative here. You see the 200, 117. Maybe staring at things, my eyes got goofy. Yeah, that could be. Okay, I think that given the time frame, I think that we just got to take -1 and be done. Sucks because our first trade was actually pretty good. We could have gotten 4 ticks out of it. And all of these actually had a little bit in our favor, so if I had just been trying to take 2 or 3, I'm still not entirely convinced that it's gonna push up here or not. Guess we'll have to see. But the thing is that you're right that there was a lot of volume down here, but when we got here, there was a lot of absorption too. So we're really stuck in the middle between some pretty strong support and resistance on both sides. So my take is that just take small. You know, on all of those, I was kind of thinking, hey, maybe I should just take the +2. Maybe I should just take the +1. You know, I really should have just had the order in there to begin with. Could trade a ton of volume at 11 in turn. But it's not a green day. I'm down 2 ticks. I could have been up though. I could have made 4 to 5 ticks for sure. So some of these, especially when we got up here, man, I really thought it was gonna go. Oh well. Where were they at? You know. So like when I look at these, I bought 1.5 at 2804. 804. Yeah, so I took one here. Oh, I got it way back at 730. So I took one here, and then I took one here, and then I took a short here, which didn't work out. They may yet move up. I don't think that I can really predict it here. Notice this looks a little bit like Head and Shoulders, but you're not getting
the trader said for me it looks like a long.
I don't get the cumulative delta that I need to say that it's a Head and Shoulders, because I would want to see this right shoulder to be lower in delta and then accelerating selling. If you see accelerated selling come in though, watch out. So I'm going to type one last thing in here. Okay. Well, that's okay. I didn't take many trades and I did okay, so I just should have taken my profits and then it would have been a good day. So I think tomorrow should be a little better. It might be a slower week, but there's some news tomorrow, right? We got the housing starts, right? We'll close that. It's yep, building permits and housing starts. So we'll catch you tomorrow, guys.